So, welcome everyone to We the People Unite. Today I'm here with Maureen Marfell, and we are turning our attention to one of the most important issues facing our country. I know we have many, but this one is about what's happening to our public lands. So, our national parks, our forests, and our wildlife refuge have long been places of beauty and reflection and preservation, places that we all love to visit. But under the current administration, these sacred spaces are facing unprecedented threats, from expanded drilling leases to mass logging directives to mass layoffs and pulling of grants. The policies unfolding right now really could, and if they continue, reshape the future of these lands forever. And so Maureen and I wanted just to update everybody on what's happening with the administration and with the plans for our public lands. And as natives, as California natives, as Maureen and I are, we love our public spaces, places like Yosemite, right, Maureen?
Oh, definitely. I call them
Beautiful
treasure.
spot. Yeah. They
They're
just,
awe-inspiring.
and just the thought of any of these places that we cherish being decimated is devastating. So we're going to start out. Maureen's going to give us an update on
Yes,
what she has found as it relates to our public parks, and we'll go from there. Maureen?
happy to do so. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, I call them our treasures. So there's an organization I became very impressed with, and I found a lot of information that's important to all of us. First of all, the National Parks Conservation Association, NPCA, says that President Trump's proposed budget could decimate at least 350 national park sites. NPCA has calculated the Trump administration's proposed cuts to the National Park Service budget could result in more than a 75% reduction to the national park system. The administration's recently released budget proposal calls for a cut of more than $1 billion to the National Park Service, which includes a $900 million cut to the operations of our national parks, the largest proposed cut in the Park Service's 109-year history. A list of targeted national parks will likely not be available until the president's full budget comes out later this month. However, based on a review of the latest reliable budget data for each unit in the park system, achieving a $900 million cut to operations would require eliminating funding for roughly 350 park sites, from the smallest and some of the largest. Despite their soaring popularity and the economic and cultural value they provide, the administration continues to systematically dismantle the Park Service, freezing hiring, forcing resignations, eliminating purchasing ability, canceling leases, and banning travel. And with a major workforce reduction still looming, the worst is yet to come. I am going to quote some statements by Teresa Perno, who is the president and CEO of the National Parks Conservation Association. Teresa shares that the president's proposed budget plan is beyond extreme. It's catastrophic. Every action taken so far by this administration has chipped away at national parks and their staff. But this budget is the final blow. If enacted by Congress, our national park system would be completely decimated. She goes on to say the numbers speak for themselves. Proposed cuts of this magnitude could shutter at least 350 national park sites across the country, effectively more than 75% of our park system. This proposal is an all-out assault on America's national parks. Our national parks aren't just places on a map. They're a shared legacy, safeguarding the beauty, history, and culture of our country. For over a century, Americans have loved and protected our national parks, battlefields, historic sites, recreation areas, and so much more. The National Parks Conservation Association has been operating since 1919. It is a nonpartisan national parks conservation association which has had a leading voice in safeguarding our national parks. NPCA and its more than 1.6 million members and supporters work together to protect and preserve our nation's most iconic and inspirational places for future generations. If you would like more information, please visit www.mpca.org.
Thank you, Maureen. Devastating to hear, but important for us to be aware of
Yes.
what's happening to our parks. So with that, I wanted to drill down a little bit further. So let's talk about the grant situation, right? So the Trump administration is reportedly eyeing dozens of grants across the National Park Service for termination. And this is according to the New York Times. And this is just one of several moves that are focused on destabilizing the US investment in our beautiful public lands. And we have to remember, this isn't just about the land, this is about the environment in general, the ecosystems, the animals that live on these lands. Right, Maureen? It's
Oh,
just
yes, right. It affects so many things. Um, and we can't go backwards. We have to continue to protect these lands. And that's what
for
we're
a
talking
lot of reasons,
for a lot
right?
of
I
reasons. That's what
mean,
we're talking about today. Yeah,
it's not just enjoying these lands for our personal pleasure. It's
right.
we don't realize how everything is so connected. And why is it that we humans think that we own it all? We don't.
No, we
Right.
don't.
This is a
Right.
planet that we all share. And I mean, I've done a couple of small videos on this as a filmmaker, and it's so important for us to raise our awareness about why this is happening and why we actually need to stop it as much as we can. And one of the reasons, let's talk about our fires.
Mm,
And Maureen and I, living in
yeah.
California as natives, are very aware of the devastation
Yes.
of fires. And so what's happened is the Forest and Park Service workers have been cut, right? And they leave our wildland firefighting crews really short staffed. So this reduction in staffing has significantly impacted wildland firefighting readiness. And this is particularly in Washington and Oregon, but it also affects our forests here in California.
Yes.
And the loss of experienced personnel, again, has left these crews understaffed ahead of a predicted severe wildfire season. What do you think of that, Maureen? I'm just, again,
It could be devastating, and we know we're going to have another bad fire season. Nice. It was nice we got so much rain because we've
mhm,
gone through drought conditions before, but we had significant amounts this year to prevent perhaps the drought. But we get a lot of vegetation with that, and that's dangerous. And we need to depend on these park service workers to
mhm,
alleviate that. And it's dangerous to them too for their staff to be cut. Uh, I I just don't
absolutely.
understand what our administration is thinking about.
Money.
Yeah,
And
money.
let's get to that, right?
Yeah,
So Maureen and I live in California, right? Home of the beautiful
so beautiful.
Yosemite National Park. And I can't even imagine this beautiful space not being accessible to anyone who wants to visit it. And if you've ever been to Yosemite, there
Mm.
is nothing like coming out from under that tunnel,
Yeah.
Maureen, and
Oh, yeah.
seeing this amazing view right
Yeah,
here. I mean, it's absolutely
absolutely.
breathtaking.
No, it's basically not to it does your soul good. It feels spiritual. Um, it's amazing, truly
Well,
amazing.
our national parks actually take in a good amount of money
Hmm.
every
Yeah,
year to help support it. So it's not like it's a drain. on government spending, but we need these parks, like you said, for our soul, right? Nothing
Right.
else.
Yeah.
But also, as I mentioned before, the ecosystem in this park.
Oh,
We're not, I don't think the administration is even thinking about that, and we know they're not.
no.
And I'm not saying that Yosemite's at risk right now. We haven't heard anything about
Right.
that. It's more about public lands, but the more they lay off people that work at these parks, it makes it difficult for visitors to come to the park and stay safe, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I found on Traveler is that this summer you might need a reservation to visit Yosemite. Um, I think a lot of these places you need reservations to camp there, but just to
Right.
visit, just to drive through.
Right.
So these are the things that we have to
Hmm.
be aware of. But this isn't the worst of it, in my mind. Uh, in our all of our public lands are preserved for a reason, right? For our environment, for the ecosystem that thrives there. And so, what's happening? The Trump administration is looking at our public lands to expand drilling and mining. Um, what kind of impact is this going to have? Right?
Right.
So, from what I understand, the Trump administration has significantly ramped up fossil fuel activities on our public lands as of his inauguration. Over 81% of the BLM, or the Bureau of Land Management, lands in the West, more than 200 million acres. And they want to open that to oil and gas leasing. So nearly half of this leased acreage remains non-producing, often held speculatively by industry players. But also in Alaska, they want to reopen the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge for oil and gas exploration, reversing previous protections. So now this move has sparked legal challenges from environmental groups, as it should, concerned
Yeah.
about the potential impacts of wildlife and the environment, as we were just talking about. What do you think, Maureen? I mean, it
Oh,
just goes on,
right.
right?
So this is, yeah, it's wrong. Why do we go back in time? We have to think about the future for our children. It makes no sense. We thought we had it in hand, right? I mean, it wasn't.
I thought we were moving away from fossil fuels.
Yeah, I did too. And why? Why do we need them? We shouldn't even. We need to get our cars more on electric, right? We don't need
Alternative energies. Yes,
alternative energy. That's yes.
yes,
Um,
yes.
I don't understand the thought process. I don't think any of us do. It boggles my mind.
Well, I think we can all agree it comes down to one thing, right?
Hmm.
Money,
Money, money.
greed.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Screw the future generations, right? We're going to take ours now.
Yep.
And that seems to be the attitude. But that's not all. Let's talk about our trees, our forests. Um, Another potential devastating impact on the environment. So, number 47, this administration has issued an executive order to expand logging across 280 million acres of national forest and public lands, aiming to boost domestic timber production. So, this directive bypasses certain environmental protections, including the Endangered Species Act. This obviously raises concerns among conservationists about the potential ecological impacts. Um, I mean, in California, the administration declared an emergency in the national forest system to facilitate increased logging operations across 112 million acres. So this action lifts protections on vast forested areas, and actually streamlines the logging process with the stated goal, but I call the spin, of addressing wildlife risk or wildfire risk and forest health decline. Um, I don't know. Can you say gaslighting? Maybe. I. It's the spin, right?
It's a spin, and once again, we're going back. And I thought a long time, quite a few years ago, we stopped logging, and
Well, we were getting our timber from Canada,
that
right?
is true.
So if,
Yeah.
yeah, if people look at a map of the
Mhm,
forest in Canada
mhm,
and the forest in the US, vast amounts of trees.
yes.
But I want to address a different issue,
Mhm,
and that is, why do we continue to cut down our trees? Because
yeah,
environmentally, it's not good. We're learning that with the Amazon rainforest.
mhm,
Why aren't we coming up with alternative materials
right.
for housing, for building?
Yeah.
I know that the printed homes, oh God, the 3D. I couldn't think. The 3D printed
Yeah.
home industry is really starting to grow, and they're showing that this is a
Right.
viable option. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious, why aren't we, exploring more of that? Have you heard about that,
Oh, yeah.
Maureen? 3D
Yeah.
printing? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea, and I've seen them, and they're comfortable, nice looking homes.
They're kind of cute. They remind me a little Adobe style, some
Yeah.
of them. But that's the beauty.
Yeah.
You know, you can kind of sketch out the kind of home you want, 3D print it. I don't know, sounds cool to me.
Sounds good to me. We don't
I
need castles, do we?
No, that's the other issue, but that's a whole nother
Okay.
video.
Right.
So that brings me to discuss another somewhat national park, but just another ridiculous kind of story. And that's the reopening of Alcatraz. And again, Maureen, you live in Northern California, so
Oh, I
you know
do.
about Alcatraz.
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco's only 20 miles north of me. I've been to Alcatraz a few times as a tourist.
Mm,
I think it's just amazing to us in California. Why do they want to reopen that prison? The reason they closed it, it cost too much money. It's out in the middle of the bay. Has a fantastic view from it, but
it does.
it costs a lot of money to bring in materials and food. It doesn't make any sense. And
Well, it's bonkers.
it is,
Yeah. So
yeah.
evidently he's floated some surreal, ridiculous proposal of reopening Alcatraz. And if people don't know, it's a former maximum security island prison
Oh,
that houses what he's calling, he wants to house the worst of the worst, right? And during its day, it kind of did,
it did.
right? That's
Yeah.
where they house some of the most notorious
Yeah.
prisoners. But like Maureen said, it was expensive
Very,
to keep up. So people
yeah.
like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly, and what was that movie they did? Escape from Alcatraz,
Right.
and
And Birdman
and The Rock,
and the Birdman
yeah, the
press
Birdman,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So some great movies on it, right?
Well, that's where
But
he's going with it. He's romanticizing. There was nothing really romantic about it, and it did cost a lot of money. And it just doesn't make any sense. Leave it alone. It's also, you brought up indigenous people, uh,
yes.
and that's why it should be a park too. You know.
Well, I guess from 69 to 71, there were
I
Native American
remember.
activists who occupied Alcatraz in protest, right? Because of the indigenous land rights. I mean,
Right.
you know, but since 1973, Alcatraz has functioned as a national park,
Yeah. It
a
has.
museum,
I mean,
education.
education.
Um,
Yeah.
but it also, I wrote a Substack. This is what I'm showing you here at Reclaiming Truth with Kim up on Substack. I have a Substack about it. But it's also a warning, right? It's not a modern
Mhm.
solution. It's a warning.
Right. Right.
And this is just about fear, intimidation, another distraction. So let's not even Let's not even give that one another moment.
No.
But I don't know, Maureen. Where do you think this is heading?
I don't know. It makes you tired, doesn't it? It's like
Exhausting.
every day. And I think we just all have to keep on speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we put together We the People Unite. And we are the people, right? This is our country. We don't want it to be destroyed. And
Not at all. And we don't want our planet destroyed.
Right.
Along with it, because that's the other thing we need to think about. So we're about at the end of our time, and I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And if you have something you'd like to share, if you want to come on and talk to us, well, we're going to have a live on Wednesdays and Fridays at 4:30 Pacific time. If you have a story, if you've been affected by anything that's been happening in the last, how long has it been now? Over 4 months since the inauguration. So a lot's been going on, but contact us at unite at wethepeoplelive.org. And we would love to talk with you. We're building a community.
Yes.
And so again, join us live on Wednesdays at 4:30 and Fridays at 4:30. And we'll do, recordings like this in between just to keep you updated on what's going on. Any last words, Maureen?
No, we just need to unite. So do as Kim has suggested. Join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
We the people unite.